Hi everybody, it's Sarah Willis again with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Wetiko expressions, or expressions of Wetiko. In my humble opinion, the mental health community and society in general makes the issue of mental health and illness more complicated than it needs to be. A lot of mental illness is really just Wetiko. We're going to be talking about Wetiko today. It's all Wetiko being expressed, whether it is subjective or objective, in the feminine or in the masculine polarity, and what spectrum is being expressed. There are some exceptions, but we're going to mainly talk about that sphere of Wetiko. Wetiko is a counterfeit cannibalizing spirit. It's a First Nations word. Some tribes called it Wendigo, and the Inuits had a completely different name for it, but it is essentially a psycho-spiritual virus, and it is a paradox, and it's really complicated, and there'll be more videos in the future to come because it's such a complicated subject. But anyway, basically, in general, in a majority of cases, the Wetiko enters in through the person, through the spirit of rejection. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Wetiko expressions in the feminine and in the masculine polarity, and it's helpful to recognize the difference and know what you're dealing with. Okay, let's jump right in. Some of these are going to be controversial and triggering for some. It's not my intention to trigger, but it may happen. Okay. So, one expression of Wetiko is binging or starving oneself, eating too much or not eating enough. And this comes from feeling empty inside for some people and filling themselves up with food, or some people eat a lot of food to protect themselves, to gain weight, have a barrier of protection, or some people starve themselves for searching for an ideal of perfection. It's one way Wetiko is expressed, most often in the feminine. Well, we're going to talk about feminine and masculine together in a little bit, but another way Wetiko expresses itself is in self-harm. So cutting, burning, I would even categorize some tattoos as self-harm. Another big one with Wetiko is self-sabotaging. Remember, it's a counterfeit spirit, so it makes you operate in ways that are counterfeit to your benefit or counterintuitive to your benefit. Here's a very controversial one. Yeah, Wetiko is also expressed as homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgender. There are some people that really are homosexual, but in my humble opinion and what I feel, a vast majority of homosexuals, it's really just Wetiko expressing itself in the individual. This is another huge one. People who have Wetiko operate from toxic shame, and that's both the masculine and the feminine. And this leads to addictions. It's trying to escape or numb or distract that toxic shame. This is another big one. Hypersexuality, being hypersexual, using your body to control people or to get someone to love you, or hypersexuality is a huge sign of Wetiko. It's how it spreads, is through sex, through soul ties, and that's through sexual intercourse. Another expression of Wetiko is a lack of identity or a lack of purpose, a distorted view of oneself and others, and we'll talk more about that later, a distorted view of one's own reality and perception of reality. And another controversial one, a lack of belief of God. Wetiko will cause you not to believe in God. You project that rejection out onto God, onto the universe, onto your reality. Another way Wetiko expresses itself is suicidal ideation. If someone is suicidal, it's a huge indicator that they have Wetiko. They have this virus. Trauma bonding, Stockholm syndrome, or toxic soul tie. That's another expression of Wetiko. It's a toxic relationship that you can't break out of. It's terrible. Role reversal. Here's another one, another expression of Wetiko. So, for example, with a parent and child, or a husband and a wife, you know, the parent, it's called parentification, where the parent trains the child to become the parent, or the parent keeps the child as a perpetual child, and infantilization. Or in role reversal in regards to romantic relationships, the woman will be the protector and the provider, not the man, and the man views himself as the prize. The woman is meant to receive, but if a woman, the feminine, has Wetiko, they cannot receive, and instead they're perpetual giving, which is not. It subverts God's plan. Here's another one. So, Wetiko in the feminine causes the feminine to light project, and in the masculine, shadow projects. So the empath, or the codependent, or the Wetiko in the feminine will see the best in everybody, and they're projecting their own light. They're not accepting their own light in themselves, and instead they're projecting it out. And complete opposite with Wetiko in the masculine, the shadow project. They project things that they cannot own about themselves onto other people. And with the Wetiko, there's also the beginning of the false self in the masculine. It's known as the master manipulator, whether they be a man or a woman. They can be, I'm talking about polarities, not gender, or the victim in the feminine, Wetiko in the feminine. We're going to be talking more now about Wetiko in the masculine. This is pretty much their MO, how they operate. If we could just summarize Wetiko in the masculine, instead of dealing with that toxic shame, they engage in the cycle. The idealize, or also known as love bombing, devalue, discard. And I thought it was fun to kind of give it a nautical or fishing term. So I said bait, switch, and jettison, or 86. It's a nautical term for dumping excess liquids off the boat, off the ship. So yeah, that's a huge one, how the Wetiko in the masculine operates, okay? This one, this is what the Wetiko, look out for that. That's Wetiko in the masculine. Wetiko in the masculine, whether they be female or male, doesn't matter. I'm talking about polarity. They will also triangulate people against one another. So siblings, family members, against, you know, new supply, whatever, triangulate. Gaslighting, and that's manipulating reality or fabricating reality with their word magic, with their chaos sorcery and word salad. And the Wetiko in the masculine creates this matrix, which is, I probably should do other videos about this in the future because it's kind of deep. But they create this false reality where nothing you do is good enough, and you're not enough as you are. And they create a false reality instead of the true reality, which is connection to everyone and God and a universe of infinite abundance. They create a false reality, a counterfeit reality, really. Another expression of Wetiko, not only is it blind to the person that it has in them, or the person that has the Wetiko, but it also makes the person blind. In the masculine, it blinds, they can't see other people, they can't see other people's needs. And in the feminine can't see themselves. So they see everybody else's needs, but they cannot see themselves. So it's the polar opposite. So now let's switch gears a little bit, okay? Let's talk about Wetiko expressions of Wetiko in movies, okay? I thought that'd be fun. You know that movie, What is Eating Gilbert Grape, with Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio? What's eating Gilbert Grape is Wetiko, okay? That's why she is eating too much and she's overweight. It's because she's struggling with pain. She might be protecting her body. She has Wetiko. Not to offend anyone, but anyway. And what expressions of Wetiko in the movie The Matrix, the actual movie called The Matrix. Remember at the end, the first one when Neo like holds his hand up and he says to the bullets, no? That's a good way to deal with this Wetiko. It stops when you say no, when you unsubscribe from the false matrix. Side note, this is also a great way to tell what Wetiko you're dealing with, whether you're dealing with the masculine Wetiko, which is narcissistic personality disorder. They won't respect your boundaries and they're going to have a problem with you saying no. Whereas the feminine will, they'll work with you. But the narcissist, they can't handle no. It's the best narcissist test. But anyway, yeah, that's a powerful moment in the movie The Matrix when Neo says no, and that's very true with Wetiko. When you say no, and you don't engage with that anymore, and you stop feeding it. Here's another movie, The Labyrinth. I just put Labyrinth, but at the end when Sarah says to the Goblin King, "You have no power over me." It's a huge way to overcome the Wetiko, is when you realize that when you can see it, it loses its power and you become empowered, and you realize it never had any power over you to begin with. And another movie, I brought this up quite a few times in my previous movies, or my previous videos, the Never-Ending Story movie. The Never-Ending Story. It's about the Nothing cannibalizing, the Wetiko eating Fantasia. And at the end, how they got Fantasia back is by making wishes, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Actually, we're going to talk about that pretty soon, but before I get into it, I just want to make a shout out that sometimes it's not so easy just to have awareness and acknowledgement what we're going to be talking about in a moment. Sometimes people need, especially me, I needed plant spirit medicine to unlock neural pathways in the brain to help me get rid of the Wetiko. The Wetiko was so ingrained in my personality, it really took over I had a certain mindset, I had a personality or a spirit about myself, and I needed help, and the plants helped me. And I'm not alone. There's many people all over the world throughout time and history that plant spirit medicine have helped them overcome from illnesses as well as Wetiko. But how we deal with Wetiko, first is awareness. You have to be aware that this phenomenon, this paradoxical psycho-spiritual phenomenon takes place, and acknowledge what you must do, so that, giving it a name and going no contact or whatever, cutting off the toxicity within yourself, or acknowledge to yourself what you must do. The third thing is compassion, and I put here radical compassion. It's sometimes radical to have compassion for yourself or for your abusers, but when you have unforgiveness, that keeps you chained to bitterness, and that's poison to oneself. So when you have compassion, it unlocks that toxicity from within you. It's for you. And the last one is the creative spirit. Remember, I touched on that briefly with the Never-Ending Story analogy. That's how they got Fantasia back, was by making wishes, by creating their soul's desires into the physical reality. And I leave on a high. I try to leave on a positive note, because I know this is really Wetiko is a horrible thing to deal with and to struggle with. And that's why these videos are being made, is to help people overcome from that. But if I've studied a lot on Paul Levy, I think it's either Paul Levy or Paul Levy, his work on Wetiko, and he says, the cure is in the curse. He says, is it really destroying us, or is it waking us up? And it is true, Wetiko can destroy you. It almost destroyed me. I'm a suicide survivor and a narcissistic abuse survivor, and it nearly did destroy me. But once I had awareness and acknowledgement and compassion and implementing the creative spirit, it really allowed me a life worth living, and it woke me up to my purpose and my identity, and it did wake me up. So I know that might be hard for some of you to hear that, but it's an initiation kind of for us to overcome and evolve as human beings. And that's what's happening right now on the earth, in my humble opinion. Much love to everyone watching this. I pray this video helped you. I know this is a very confusing topic. If you have any questions, please leave them down below, or you can shoot me an email if you have questions or want to talk to me. Much love. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye for now.